بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمم ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سعادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. For every individual, his or her number one base, his or her number one support comes from family. Family is your support. Family is your backbone. Family is what holds you at tough times and guides you and pushes you in the right direction. They inspire you, they motivate you, they hold your hands. During tough times, good times, bad times, you lean on your family, on your immediate relatives. You need their support. You need their encouragement. You need their positive words in your life. When everyone else abandons you in time of need, usually your family does not abandon you. They are there to support you. When everyone else fails you. However, from personal experience, I'm sure most of you have experienced that not all family members are supportive. Not all family members are kind and loving. There are some family members that are very discouraging, very harmful. They can say some very harsh words, very negative words, words that put us down, words that destroy us. Some family members can be supportive, but there are other family members who can be destructive. They cause us agony, they cause us anxiety, they cause us depression. It could be a brother, it could be a sister, it could be a sibling, it could be a cousin. Sometimes it's your father, sometimes it's your mother who's destructive in your life. Your father could be destructive in your life. A cousin, an uncle, an aunt who always put you down, they're always negative towards you. They're not supportive. You make decisions, they go against your decision. You choose someone to marry, they tell you, no, this is not the right person for you. You decide on moving to Columbus, they say no. Cleveland is better. Cincinnati is better. Why come to Columbus? You choose a new job, they tell you you left all the jobs in the world and you chose this job. They're never supportive. Always negative. always putting you down. What do you do in this case? On the one hand, we in Islam, we are required to have a strong relationship with our family members. وَالَّذِينَ يَصِلُونَ وَالَّذِينَ يَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ. Allah scolds and lectures those who cut off their ties with family members. A cousin, an uncle, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter. Allah says, have a close tie with your family members. قَطْعُ الرَّحِمِ. This is one of the greatest sins in Islam, to cut off your ties with a family member. قَطْعُ الرَّحِمِ. This is on one side. Especially if it's parents. Parents, we owe them obedience and respect no matter what. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Look at the importance of kindness to parents. Allah says that Allah has decreed that you shall not worship anyone other than God, and kindness to parents. Allah equates worshipping Him to kindness to parents. أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Look how important it is. إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما. Allah says that if one of them or both of them become elderly, become old, don't yell at them, don't shout at them, don't even say the word uff, uff, uff. Hadith say that if there was a word even smaller than uff, more meaningless than uff, Allah would have mentioned in the Quran. But because there's nothing more meaningless than the word uff, Allah says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Don't say uff. They tell you, take out the trash. They tell you, do this, do that. And say, yes, yes, sir. Yes, yes, ma'am. I will obey. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. Allah says that show humility towards your parents. Humility. جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ. Some people say that I will not show humility to anyone. Allah says show humility to your parents. Humility towards any other human being is not allowed except the parents. We are asked to show humility towards our parents. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِ صَغِيرًا. And say, oh Allah, forgive them. Forgive them the same way that they raised me. So on one hand, we have to keep a strong relationship with our parents, a strong relationship with our family members, our siblings, our uncles, our cousins. On the other hand, what if they're causing us anxiety? What if they're causing us stress? I have a lot of, throughout my travels, a lot of youth, a lot of individuals, they come and say, Sayyid, I can't stand my brother. I can't stand my sister. They're always negative. They've never been positive in my life. Any sort of decision that I make, they're always negative. They always cause me stress. They always cause me anxiety. Is it allowed that I cut my relationship off with my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin? Is this allowed? In Islam, we're supposed to have a good relationship with family members, but even if they're causing us our misery, even if they're causing us anxiety, what do we do in this case? There are some individuals that opt to cutting ties off completely. This sibling of mine, I don't know them, they don't know me. Khalas. Nowadays, it's very easy. On WhatsApp, there's a feature called block. I'm sure most of you know it. And you've used it. God knows how many people we have on our block section. On most social media apps, there's a block. Sometimes people block in person. Khalas, this person's out of my life. Never speaking to this person. I choose to block this person away. Is this acceptable? Here in the West, it's very normal. It's very, very normal for children to move out of the house and never see their parents again. This is something very normal. Even when the holidays come in, Thanksgiving, Christmas, they don't see their parents. Why? Well, my father isn't supportive of me. My mother isn't supportive of my decisions. Or I've chosen to marry someone, but my parents didn't support me, and so I choose to block them. Ajib. Your mother, who gave birth to you, who carried you for 9 months, and who cared for you your whole life, you block her out of your life for someone that you just met, and then after 2 years he gets a divorce, and then he says, my mother, why don't I have a strong relationship with my mother or my father? So what do we do in this case? If we have toxic family members that are causing us misery or agony or stress, do we cut off ties or we do not? This is the topic of tonight. Wa sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What do we mean by toxic family members? What does this concept mean? Toxic family members are those who are abusive. They display abusive behavior. Now, we don't mean physical abuse. No, physical abuse, that's something else. That's obviously very toxic, and that should not be tolerated. We're not talking about physical abuse. We're talking about emotional abuse, verbal abuse, the things they say. For example, they make fun of your appearance, your weight. How much do you weigh? The way you dress, the way you walk, the way you talk, your accent, for example. They make fun, they ridicule you. This is toxic. Or they criticize you for being single. Oh my God, you're 30, 35, and you're still not married. You're going to miss the train. Hold on a second. Do you know what they're going through? Maybe they're trying to find the right spouse, but they haven't. Why are you quick to judge? There are some family members, every time they see a single member of the family, oh, you're still single. Everyone in your age got married. Everyone in your generation has 3 kids by now, and you're still single. You ridicule them for something that is sometimes not in their hands. Sometimes it's not in their hands. You ridicule them. Or maybe because they're divorced. Their marriage did not work out. So you ridicule them. Why did you get a divorce? Oh my God, your chances of getting married is very slim because you're divorced. You're divorced. Give them a break. Give them a break. They divorced. That doesn't mean they performed kufr or performed shirk or they don't have children. Everyone in your generation now has children. You're the only one that doesn't have children. Or they are critical of what you do for a living, your job, your means of income. They ridicule you. I told you not to choose this path. I told you to become a lawyer. You didn't listen. I told you to become a doctor, but you didn't listen. Now, pay the bills. Now you have to... This is being toxic. This is being toxic. One of my brothers who lives in Michigan, he says one day, in the month of Ramadan, maybe I've told you this story in the past, I don't remember. You can tell that I'm getting old. He says, I was invited for iftar at some gentleman's house. So, he says, usually I don't ask them, when I'm invited to someone's house, I don't ask them what they do for a living. He says, I don't ask, unless they tell me, but I don't initiate. That day, I don't know why, for some reason, I was trying to make small talk. So over iftar, I told the gentleman who was hosting me, I told him, what do you do for a living? He smiled and he said, Sayyid, I own a liquor store. Liquor store. So my brother says that I felt like vomiting because I'm over at his house for iftar, and what he makes for a living is he owns a liquor store. After iftar, his daughter served tea. She brought tea to the guests. So he said, Sayyid, and he was laughing. He was laughing. He said, Sayyid, ask my daughter what she does for a living. My brother says, I was scared to ask, because if the father sells liquor, God knows what the daughter does. So I asked her, what do you do for a living? She said, I'm a nurse for kittens, for cats.
I'm a nurse for cats. So the father started laughing. He said, hey, look, what a stupid job. She's a nurse for cats. So the Sayyid says, but at least it's a halal job. At least it's halal. You think it's stupid, but at least this is halal means of income, unlike you. So there are some family members that will ridicule you, whether you're a nurse for kittens or dogs or elephants. They're always going to ridicule you. This is called toxicity. Being toxic. Toxic parents. Toxic relatives. Toxic cousins. Toxic siblings. Let's start off with parents first. You see, all parents love their children. This is no question about that. Only there are some that are ill or sick that don't have love for their children. Otherwise, all parents, all fathers, all mothers, even atheists, you don't have to be a Muslim to love your children. Even atheists, even non-Muslims, even people that are not religious, they love their children. It's biological. It's biological. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put it in their system to love their children. The problem is some parents don't know how to show their love. Some don't know how to show their love. Some parents, they think that the best way of showing love and support for their children is money, cash. Cash. Here's $100 a bill. Here's a credit card. Go and buy whatever you want. They think love equals money. As long as he's or she's, as long as the parents, they're spending money, they give cash, they give a credit card, they give a credit card to the son or daughter, that's love. But that's not love. That's part of love. That's one way of exhibiting love. Love is a lot more. Our children don't just need our money, they need our affection. They need our attention. They need our compassion. They need our understanding. Some of our kids, they just want us to understand them. To understand them. For example, they choose a career, not the career that the parents wanted. Try to understand, where is he coming from? Where is he coming from? It might not be the career that you wanted, but it's the career that he wants. It's the career that she wants. To be understanding. Or when they reach the age of marriage and they choose a spouse. And I see this in every community where there's a conflict. The parents choose one spouse, the child chooses another. The daughter chooses a husband for herself. At the end of the day, we live in America. We don't live in Baghdad or in Pakistan or in Iran or in Qatif or in Kuwait. We live in America. Here, our youth, they choose their spouses for themselves. Sometimes I have someone in mind for my son or my daughter, and sometimes they choose. Here there's a conflict. There's a conflict. And there will be a conflict if we enforce our opinion. Yes, as parents we may guide. We may provide guidance. We may provide advice, support, emotional support. But we should also try to be understanding. We should also be understanding. Be supportive of some of their decisions by guiding them at the same time, by providing guidance, but at the same time by providing support. Some parents are very abusive, not physically. Again, we're not talking about physical abuse. Physical abuse there's no tolerance in Islam for physical abuse. We are talking about verbal abuse, emotional abuse. The words that are chosen by the parents toward their children, they could be very abusive. They could be very destructive. The way that you speak to a son or a daughter. If you tell them that, for example, I didn't raise you properly, or that there's no good in you, or this, or that, or this. This can have disastrous effects. We think that this is a word that we said and it will pass by. No. People will remember. Our children will remember what we told them, even if it's 20 years from now. Some words leave scars. They leave marks. If the parents were harsh and what they said, that there's no good in you, no, you'll never succeed in life, this, that, it will leave marks. There's a verse of poetry in Arabic that says, جراحات السنان لها لها التئام وهل يلتئم أو وهل يلتام ما جرح اللسان. That if the meaning of the verse of poetry is that if I injure someone with a stick, with a stone, with a dagger, with a spear, after a while that scar will disappear. It will heal. But the injuries of the tongue will never heal. They will never heal. They will never heal. Here in America, they say, bricks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. This is wrong. This is wrong. Bricks and stones will break your bones, but after a while you will heal. But it's the words that you will not heal from. I've said this in previous lectures, that Sigmund Freud, the famous Sigmund Freud, the famous psychologist, they say that when he was a child, his father would put him down all the time and would tell him that no good will ever come from you. You are a disaster. You are a disappointment. They say that he lived a lifetime of trying to prove his father wrong. Sigmund Freud. He lived a lifetime of trying to prove that his father was wrong, that he did not make the right decision. You see, my dear brothers and sisters, sometimes if we are disappointed with our children, with our youth, sometimes I am to blame. I am to blame. If my child, if my son or daughter, they don't live up to my expectations, it's not just them. It's not just their fault. It's also my fault. I was too busy. I didn't spend more time with them. I didn't make an effort. I take some of the blame. I take some of the responsibility. If my child doesn't live up to my expectations, I'm also to blame. It's not just them. I did not set a good example. I believe, personally, I believe the most successful parents are those that are friends with their children. Friends. They develop a friendship. They speak to them as friends. They deal with them as friends. You don't have to fear your parents. That's not a good way of raising children. For having your children fear you. No, let them love you. Let them understand you and you understand them. Each understanding one another. Parents understand their children. Children understand their parents. And there is a friendship between them. Friendship. Not a relationship of fear. That if I don't do this, my father is going to do this. My mother is going to do that. There should be no fear. There should be no fear. There should be love and understanding. Some parents, unfortunately, and this is what toxic behavior looks like. There are some parents, especially migrants. So this is me, you, a lot of us. We try to live through our children. So for example, I didn't go to college. I have to make sure my child goes to college. I didn't become a doctor, so my son has to become a doctor. I didn't get accepted at Harvard, so my son has to get accepted at Harvard. I, married early and I had kids, some mothers, and I got married and I became a mother. There's no way I'll let my daughter get married early and have children. She has to go to college and she has to become a doctor. You see, and I see this in a lot of families where the parents try to live through their children because they couldn't make it, they couldn't succeed. And of course, I understand where these parents are coming from. Because back home, they did not have the opportunities that their children have today. And our children have to be grateful as well. Back home, we didn't have opportunities. We didn't have the best universities. We didn't have scholarships. We didn't have universities that would accept us with a free ride. We didn't have the services that you have today. We barely made it. We barely made it. And so when we see our children today, some of them, they're spoiled. They live in a country where basically you have it all. You have it all, so you get upset. You say, I didn't have all of these leisures, but I studied and I worked a lot to make it. And now you guys have everything. You guys have everything, but you don't study. You don't try to make it. You don't try to succeed. So it's very aggravating for some parents. However, we cannot live through our children. You cannot live through your child. We already had our chance. When I was 18, I was 19 years old. I had my chance of being a doctor. I blew it, for example. Khalas. I can't force my 18-year-old son to become a doctor. Why? Because I couldn't become a doctor. Because I got married at the age of 18, 19, and I started having children. Now my daughter cannot get married and she can't have children because I made that mistake. She has to go through college and become a professional. It's good to guide. It's good to inspire, to motivate. But you had your chance. Now let them have their chance. You made your decisions. Now let them make their own decisions. What you could do is guide. What you could do is motivate. But at the end of the day, it's their choice. Every human being is born with a free will. With a free will to make their own decisions. طيب. Two more salawat, please. Sometimes it's not the parents who are toxic. Sometimes it's the siblings. Some siblings can be very toxic, especially if there's envy and jealousy between the siblings. They could be very toxic. They put each other down. They could ridicule one another. They could bully one another. Bullying. Sometimes some siblings bully one another. A brother bullies his brother. A sister bullies her sister. Sometimes some siblings can be toxic. You know who had toxic siblings? Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. The verse that I began with. قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ. When Yusuf had his dream, he told his father that I see 11 stars performing sujood for me, and the sun and the moon. The father told him, his father, Prophet Yaqub, told him, my son, do not tell your dream to your brothers. قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تَقْصُصْ رُؤْيَاكَ عَلَىٰ إِخْوَتِكَ فَيَكِيدُوا لَكَ كَيْدًا. They will have evil plans for you. Because Yaqub knew that his sons were toxic towards their brother Yusuf. They were envious and they were jealous. Why, my dear friends? Some siblings, because of their own failures, because they failed, whether academically at school or economically at work or socially, maybe they got a divorce, their marriage didn't work out, and they have a sibling who succeeded at school, at work, got married, has kids, he's living the dream, they become envious. They become jealous. And they become very toxic. Envy between siblings is very real, my dear friends. Very, very real. And hence we have narrations that tell us parents should treat their children equally. Do not favor some children over others. Don't ever favor some children over others. Treat your children equally. You can love some children more than others. You can love. This is natural. Yaqub alayhi salam, he loved Yusuf more than others. You can love, but don't show that love more. Treat them equally. One day, my mother, in my family, we are 9 siblings. We are 9 children. I'm the 9th. I'm the baby of the family. I have 5 brothers and 3 sisters. One day, my mother was asked, who's your favorite? And of course, I'm her favorite. There's no question about that. But she was asked, who's your favorite? So she went like this. She made 9 fingers. She said, can you ask me which is my favorite finger? Or if you told me I wanted cut off one finger, can I volunteer a finger? All of my fingers are important. I need all of my fingers. I don't have a favorite finger. All of them are important to me. This is how parents should be. They should not favor one child over another. Why? Because that creates animosity. That creates enmity and envy and jealousy. And this is exactly what Prophet Yaqub did with his son Yusuf. إِذْ قَالُوا, his Yusuf's brothers, they said, إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُف وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. That Yusuf and his brother are more beloved by our father. So that created envy and jealousy. And there's another thing, let me add. and I've seen this unfortunately in some communities, that some siblings, they get along. They love each other. But you know where the problem comes from? Their wives. Their wives. Because their wives don't get along, they make their brothers don't get along. Sometimes this hatred and fire is fueled by the two wives who pass on the animosity towards the brothers. And this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And this is also advice to all families, that to all brothers, to all siblings, your wives don't get along. You know what you do? You know what you do? You put them in a room and you lock them in the room and you tell them, fight. But don't get us involved. Don't get us involved. We brothers, we love each other. You don't get along, that doesn't mean we can't get along. You take out your problems between yourselves. Don't draw your problems to us, because we were born from the same mother and father. Don't create animosity between us. طيب. There are some aunts and uncles who could be toxic. Yes. Yeah, an aunt or an uncle. Why? Especially if they see that their children have failed. Maybe they didn't get the right job, or they're not succeeding in school. Maybe they don't get good grades. But their niece or nephew gets good grades at school. They got a good job, but their children didn't get a good job. Their niece and nephew got married. Their children didn't get married. They moved into a good house, but your child still lives at home, for example. They develop animosity towards the niece or the nephew. So there are toxic uncles and aunts. There are some toxic cousins as well. There are a lot of toxic family members. How do we deal with them? There is one solution, and one solution only. And this is not the Western American style solution of blocking. In Islam, we don't have block for family member. You can block your neighbor, your coworker, whoever you want, block, but not a family member. You can never block a family member, because that is considered قطع الرحم. قطع الرحم. You're not allowed. Here we only have one solution, and that is to reply to toxic family members with kindness. They are toxic towards us, but we are kind to them. This is what the Quran teaches. وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ. A good deed and a bad deed can never be the same. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن. Someone does wrong to you, do good to them. A family member wrongs you, do good to them. They disconnect from you, you connect to them. They don't say salam to you, you say salam to them. This is what the Quran says. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. Allah says that if you do this, your enemy becomes your friend. Your enemy becomes your friend. وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا. Only those who can be patient and tolerant can do this. وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا ذُو حَظٍ عَظِيمٍ. The Quran also says وَلِمَنْ صَبَرَ وَغَفَرَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ لَمِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. Those who are patient and forgive. Those who can forgive. You only have one option. You have a toxic mother, forgive her. A toxic father, forgive them. A toxic children, forgive them. Especially parents. Especially parents. Why? My dear friends, because our parents are guests with us. Today they're here, tomorrow they might not. Cherish every single moment that you can with your mother, with your father, even if they're not great with you. Even if they're not so positive with you, even if they're not supportive of your decisions, cherish those moments with your family members. The hadith says, صِلْ مَنْ قَطَعَكَ وَأَحْسَنْ إِلَى مَنْ أَسَاءَ إِلَيْكَ. He who disconnects from you, you connect with them. And he who does bad to you, you do good to them. You do good to them. Here in the West, they cut off relationships with family members, with cousins, with siblings, with parents. This is not Islamic. This is not normal. This is not normal. We have a hadith that he who cuts off his ties with family members, his lifespan will be shortened. His lifespan will be shortened. You see, my dear friends, even the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal, even the Imams, they had toxic family members. They had toxic family members. Rasulullah, Khatamul Anbiya'i Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Rasulullah had toxic family members. He had an uncle, Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab has an entire chapter in the Holy Quran condemning him. تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. طيب, Rasulullah had a toxic uncle who would abuse him verbally and physically, yet he dealt with him. He dealt with him. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Amir al-Mu'mineen Az-Zubayr was his cousin. Az-Zubayr, who fought Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battle of Jamal. He was the cousin of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He was a toxic cousin. Who was a toxic cousin who fought Amir al-Mu'mineen and led a battle against his own Imam. So many of the Imams. Al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam had a toxic nephew, Ali ibn Ismail. Ismail is the son of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. Ismail had a son by the name of Ali. He wanted to be the Imam. And he went and told Harun al-Rashid that Musa ibn Ja'far collects khums and zakat and he claims to be a Khalifa. And he led to the death of and demise of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. The nephew of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. A toxic nephew. A toxic nephew. Umar ibn Sa'd was a cousin of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Can you believe it? Umar ibn Sa'd was a cousin of Imam al-Hussein. Yet he had no trouble of standing on the day of Ashura and fighting his own cousin and murdering him and massacring him. Why? Because he was promised the governor of Ray. Al-Abbas alayhi salam, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He also had a toxic uncle, so to speak. Not really an uncle, but a relative of his mother. Whom? Shibr ibn al-Jawshan. Shibr ibn al-Jawshan was from the same tribe as al-Baneen. On the night of Ashura, he approached the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and he shouted, Ayna banu ukhtina? Where are my nephews? Where are the sons of our sister? Ayna al-Abbas wa ikhwatih? Where's Al-Abbas and his brothers? Al-Abbas did not reply. He did not reply. Again, Aina Al-Abbas? Aina banu ukhtina? Where are my nephews? Al-Abbas didn't reply. Imam Hussein alayhi salam told him, reply to him. Ajibhu walau kana kafiran. Even if he's a kafir, reply to him. He's a family member. He's a family member. So Al-Abbas came out and he said, what do you want? What do you want? He said, لَكَ الْأَمَانِ مِنْ ibn Ziyad. You and your brothers, you will have a safe passage. You will not be killed on the day of Ashura. Al-Abbas looked at Shimr ibn al-Jawshan and he told him, لَعَنَكَ اللَّهُ وَلَعَنَ أَمَانَكَ. May Allah curse you and curse your safe passage. أَتُؤَمِّنُنَا وَابْنُ بِنْتِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ لَا أَمَانَ لَهُ. You give us safety and security, but the son of Fatima does not have safety and security. May Allah curse you. This was Al-Abbas alayhi salam. You see, Yusuf قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. Don't tell your dream to your brothers. Yusuf had 11 brothers, but they did not stand with him. They conspired against him and they decided to kill him and throw him in a well. 11 brothers. And Imam al-Hussein had one brother. And that was Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Just one. And look what he did. And look what he did. Tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, we remember Al-Imam al-Hassan al-Zaki. Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. the older brother to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Al-Imam al-Hussein was extremely respectful to his brother Al-Imam al-Hassan. Extremely respectful. And in the life of Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein viewed his older brother as his Imam. Not just as his older brother, but as his Imam. He never spoke in his presence. Imam al-Hussein never spoke in the presence of Imam al-Hassan. If Imam al-Hassan is there, the final word is for him. It's his say, his decision, his call. And Imam al-Hassan was given poison. By whom? Muawiyah sends a messenger to the Roman emperor in Constantinople, which is in Istanbul. He told him, I want from you to send me your worst type of poison. Your deadliest type of poison. So he said, who do you want it for? He said, I want it for the grandson of your enemy, of Prophet Muhammad, his grandson. He said, subhanallah, if Jesus had a grandson, we would have worshipped him. If Jesus had a grandson, we would have worshipped him. And you want to murder and poison the grandson of your prophet? He sold him the poison. Imam al-Hassan was married to Ju'da bint al-Ash'ath ibn al-Qais. If the brothers and sisters remember, 2 years ago, right here on this podium, I spoke about why Imam al-Hassan married Ju'da. Why? For what reason did he marry Ju'da? Muawiyah strikes a deal with Ju'da that if you give this poison to Al-Hassan ibn Ali, I will give you money and you will marry my son Yazid. And so she gives him the poison. Imam al-Hassan is poisoned. His brother Imam al-Hussein comes to visit him and he sees that the Imam is sweating and he's vomiting. He's vomiting his own liver. He had a basket and he would vomit his own liver. And he told him, Akhi Aba Abdullah, don't leave me. Don't leave me in these sensitive times. I need you. Imam al-Hussein remained with his brother Imam al-Hassan. And then all of a sudden, as Sayyidah Zainab comes to see her brother, she heard that her brother is ill. So Imam al-Hassan hides the bucket, hides the basket. He says, I don't want my sister Zainab to see. Zainab comes, my brother, Ya Aba Muhammad, what is wrong? I see you near death. What is wrong? She discovers that Imam al-Hassan has been poisoned by his wife Ju'da. Imam al-Hassan, on a day like today, the 7th of Safar, in the holy city of Medina, passes. His brother Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was next to him when he said the Shahadatain. He said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And he closed his eyes and he was facing the Qibla. And he passes next to Imam al-Hussein. And his will was that Imam al-Hussein buries him next to his grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. So they take Imam al-Hassan to be buried next to his grandfather, Rasulullah. Yet, the enemy stopped Imam al-Hassan from being buried next to Rasulullah. Marwan ibn al-Hakam had an army and he refused. He said, Uthman is buried in the end of the Baqi' and al-Hassan will be buried next to Rasulullah. No. And Aisha came out riding a female donkey and she said, no, I will not allow al-Hassan to be buried in my house. And here Marwan ibn al-Hakam gave an order for his army to shoot the body of Imam al-Hassan with arrows. The body of Imam al-Hassan was shot with arrows. When they counted the arrows, they found 72 arrows in the body of Imam al-Hassan. They had to perform his ghusl and kafan again. And then they brought him to Baqi'. And Imam al-Hussein brings down his brother to his grave. He puts him in his grave. he leaves the grave and he sheds tears over his brother Al-Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. He removes the dust from his hand for bearing his brother Al-Imam Al-Hassan. I say, my master, Ya Aba Abdullah, how many brothers did you have to see fallen? One was Al-Hassan in Medina, another was Abul Fadl Al-Abbas in Karbala. You were also right next to him when you went and you saw his hands on the ground, the pole on the ground, the water jug on the ground, the flag on the ground, and you saw your brother Al-Abbas with an arrow in his eye. There you shouted, Al-an inkasara dhahri وقلت حيلتي وشمت بي عدوي يا خويا انكسر ظهري ولا اقدر اقوم صرت مركز يا خويا الكل الهموم يا خويا استوحدوني عقبك القوم ولا واحد علي بعد ينغر يا خويا الساوق بيتي علي يا خويا الساعدة وشمت بي يا ابو فاضل يا خويا قطعت بي. Imam Hussein alayhi salam had the head of Abul Fadl al-Abbas in his lap. Abul Fadl al-Abbas moved his head. Again the Imam took the head of his brother, he put it in his lap. And Abul Fadl al-Abbas removes his head 2-3 times. The Imam wants the head of Al-Abbas in his lap, yet Al-Abbas removes his head and puts it on the ground. He told him, Akhi, Ya Abul Fadl, why don't you put your head in my lap for me to enjoy your presence in my lap? He said, Akhi Aba Abdullah, an hour from now, in whose lap will you lie in whose lap will you put your head on, Ya Aba Abdullah? Imam Hussein comes back to the tent. His daughter Sukaina greets him. Abata, did you see my uncle Abbas? Did he bring any water? His sister Zainab comes to him. Akhi Aba Abdullah, where's our brother Abbas? Imam Hussein goes to the tent of Al-Abbas. He holds the pole and he drops it to the ground, meaning that the owner of this tent is not coming back tonight. All the women and children start shouting, Wa Abbasa, Wa ضيعتناه بعدك. And Imam Hussein also joined them. Wa Abbasa, Wa ضيعتناه بعدك. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العلي الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا عيبا إلا سترته ولا خوفا إلا آمنته ولا رزقا إلا بسطته ولا شملا إلا جمعته ولا مرضا إلا شفيته ولا غائبا إلا حفظته وأدنيته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين. ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء نقرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.